extensive challenge question number 2. This question, we got 1 times by 99 plus 2 times by 98 plus 3 times by 97 all the way to 49 times by 51. And the pattern for these two multipliers, you find that for each pair, these two multipliers add up to 100, right? 2 times by 98, 2 plus 98 is 100, 3 plus 97, 100, and also 49 adding 51 is 100. So how can we use this kind of thing? How can we use that the sum of these two numbers is 100? So if the sum of this number is 100, that means, let's see, you're going to do the first number. If let's say the first number is A, then the second number will be 100 minus A, right? And guys, if you remove the bracket, that will be A times by 100 take away A squared. And that tells you can use that the sum of all the square numbers if you're starting from 1. Let's see, guys. As for the first term, you do 1 times by 99, right? And we know that 99 equals to 100 minus 1. So we just write that in this way. And then the second term, there'll be 2 times by 100 minus 2 in the bracket, which is 98. And also there'll be 3 times by 97, so which is 100 minus 3. And all the way to the last term, which will be 49 times by 100 minus 49. Okay, so after that, we can remove the bracket and see what do we have. When you remove the bracket, that will be 1 times by 100, take away 1 times by 1, which is 1 squared. And then you add 2 times by 100, take away 2 times by 2, which is 2 squared. And then you're adding 3 times by 100, take away 3 times by 3, which is 3 squared. And as for the last term, that will be 49 times by 100 minus 49 times by 49. So you got 49 squared, right? And now, guys, if you take a look of each term that you write here, you have two parts. The first part is that a number times by 100, and the second part is you take away square number. So we're gonna put the same type. The first type, let's call this type 1. Okay, and let's call this type 2. We're gonna put these two different types all together. So 1 times by 100 plus 2 times by 100. Let's see, what do we have? In the bracket, we have 1 times by 100, adding 2 times by 100, 3 times by 100, all the way to 49 times by 100. Okay, 49 times by 100. And now you have to take away 1 squared, take away 2 squared, take away 3 squared, all the way to take away 49 squared. So that means we can take away the sum of 1 squared, 2 squared, 3 squared, and then finish at 49 squared. Okay, guys, take a look of these two big brackets. As for the first one, you'll find each term, you got a common factor, which is 100, right? So we can just extract that out. So 100 times by 1 plus 2 plus 3 plus 4 all the way to 49, which is the sum of an arithmetic sequence. I think it's easy for you guys to get this number, right? And then take away the sum of these square numbers, and in the lesson we learned that formula, which is the last term, which is 49, right? 49 times by 49 plus 1, which is 50, times by 2 times by 49 plus 1. And we know that 2 times by 49 equals to 98, and you plus 1, you got 99. And don't forget, you have to divide by 6. Okay, now let's do the further calculation. Here you got 100 times by its arithmetic sequence. We can get the sum by doing first term adding the last term in the bracket times by how many terms you have. You know that is 49 terms, and don't forget you have to divide it by 2. And then take away. As for this 2, you can write that 6 into 2 times by 3. 2 times by 3, because 50 is divisible by 2, so we can simplify that. So that we got 25. And also 99 is divisible by 3. 99 divided by 3, you got 33. So basically we take away 49 times by 25 and times by 33. Okay, next step. We got 100 times by 1 plus 49 will be 50, right? And then 50 divided by 2, you got 25. So that will be 100 times by 25 times by 49. And then take away 49 times by 25 times by 33. And now guys, you'll find this common factor which of 25 times by 49. And now we can take that out. So 25 times by 49 times by the difference of 133. Okay, let's see what do we have. We're going to have 25 times by 49 and times by 67. Alright guys, that's the last step of the calculation. You can do that by yourself and you will find the final answer equals to 82,075. And that's the last final answer to this question.